We started off at the end of 2024 already. Jus Martinez, who was appointed artistic director of the Ljubljana Biennale, came to Berlin, and she was talking about a new body of work that Nicole wanted to do with a neuroscientist called Adam H. Horowitz. So we took that chance and commissioned the work, which was then shown in Ljubljana in the summer of 2025. And when it came to Berlin, we basically found out that we had too many works for a space smaller than the ones in Ljubljana. We decided to take the biggest work out. It was a heart-shaped drum. And in collaboration with the Transmediale, we made a performance. And it was not just the beginning of this working process, but it was also the start of like a composing process actually that Nicole did with Nyksan, a Colombian musician and producer, aka Colombian drone mafia. And it was also for us really to inaugurate the process and the space and find a resonating space here.
So I like to think about the exhibition space both as an experiment, but also a place to drift away. An experiment in sleeping, in dreaming, and mostly in daydreaming, which is the way of connecting it to the drift away. In the end, this space is a system for attunement, for attuning to the different membranes between waking life and dreaming life, and activating these membranes in between, resonating them so we can traverse these realities in a continuum, in a continuous feedback loop of retroalimentation and co-composing each other through these different spaces.
So behind me you find the main piece of the show. It's called Convoluted Mattress, an arrangement of mattresses, but actually they're acoustic panels used for recording studios, for example. You can lie down on them. You will also find pillows, and also in the pillows there's certain sounds. There's like breathing sounds, purring sounds, there's a heartbeat, for example. And then the soundtrack also is best heard from a horizontal position on the mattresses.
It's an invitation to really lay down, lay low, and connect to an intimate layer that is only for them, to co-compose this sort of like choreography from different scales of sounds around you. Some sounds are the ones that come from the space, some other sounds are activated by other people, other visitors through the dream drums, these interactive instruments in the room where they can weave themselves into the sonic landscape of the room. So the dream drums, they are these portals for us to be able to actually tag into, to actually access the sonic space, to be part of it. It's an invitation for the audience to be able to not only contribute, but to fuse, to weave themselves into this dream world. It's where the whole project, the whole installation, the whole research initiated, because I've been working with a lot of drums, but mostly with membranes. Membranes as a theoretical place, so membranes as conceptual apparatuses to think with, but also membranes as physical structures to put ideas into practice, as a model structure. The idea is that these membranes, they become sensitive skins. They become sensitive bodies that at the same time they are a threshold, they are a border, but a resonant one. I understand these membranes as oscillant patterns, as oscillant boundaries that don't define reality from a structural, rigid wall sort of logic, but a logic of like where everything is in constant oscillation. So then the membrane becomes much more than an instrument or than a boundary, but the membrane becomes a territory, an oscillatory territory, where everything is in transduction, where reality is thought and experienced and shared through vibrations. And in this case, the dream drums, they are meant to be played, to be vibrated, to be touched, to be activated. So the drums not only are these sort of portals, vibrational portals between waking life and dreaming life, but they also instigate and kind of like sneakily activate a way of understanding that we have to do this together. They are drums for us to play together, for us to rehearse together, for us to practice reality, but also to tune in these different worlds. So the drums become portals of togetherness and vibrational realms.
You can take the title quite literally. This is a space to rehearse, but it is rehearsing to actually relax and to do nothing to doze off a little bit, to snooze. And now you would say, like, why do we have to rehearse that? It's all things that come quite natural to us. But indeed, we don't practice these things anymore. Whenever we are bored, we fiddle around with our phones, we're constantly available, we look at videos all the time. And to not do that is something that we have to rehearse again.
So the Dreamscape was developed in collaboration with Nyksan, aka Colombian Drone Mafia. And Nico, he is a producer and musician, and we composed this piece together. Both of us, we brought different elements to the conversation and created this remix.
Our intention with Nicole was to create a truly immersive space and experience through sound, where people could just like delve in a more comfortable way. For that, we work in collaboration with a neuroscientist, Adam, that gives us like some theoretical framework to use alpha, beta, and theta waves. So that's one component, but it's also a very layered composition. The composition also includes field recordings that I did in the Amazon, and I had the intention of like understanding and recording some of the most like calming sounds, or even like intention of how we understand the oral space of being in the jungle. I recorded sounds of water, frogs, wind, rain, birds, and all of that, like we started to put together in kind of a sound collage with Nicole. That gives us like an idea of an oral space that you can really immerse to when you come to the installation.
The key element of the composition, like let's say the structural element, comes from brain entrainment techniques. The whole composition that is 45 minutes, it has 3 different segments, and each of these segments corresponds to certain brain waves. So these sounds, these pulsating sounds, these specific frequencies diffuse certain sounds that actually calibrate certain brain waves and mental states, directing you towards a dream state, daydreaming space, or deep relaxation.
Circulaciones, Dreamscapes, is a piece based on 2 concepts that we worked with Nicole. One is dream incubation, that is basically the idea of when you're about to go to sleep to have an intention or a question that will be resolved in the dream state. And brain entrainment refers to the idea of also synchronization between like a wave or sound frequencies with the same phase and scope. The first part is the introduction, where we have alpha waves, where there's a more of a dynamics within the piece, and you will hear like more kind of synthetic sounds around, displays in different points of the installation. As you go deeper, you will find the beta and delta waves. That feels more like a low frequency coming within. And the intention with this is that you were basically riding a boat in the Amazon, which I feel was one of the most tranquilizing activities when I was there doing field recordings for this piece. And the last one is, I would say, a deconstruction of a song called Sleepwalking, and that's how we want people to live, right? Like in a dreamy state.
The broader context of this exhibition is actually sleep science. So dreaming is also part of sleep science. And sleep science, interestingly, has a longer research tradition in Berlin. There is, for once, the Charité, who already founded a sleep laboratory in the early 1990s. So they've been researching sleep and sleep disorders for more than 30 years. Also, Schering, the pharma company where this Stiftung comes from, they also had a sleep laboratory, which is interesting to make that connection to the history where we come from. The reason why this exhibition is centered around sleep and dreams comes with the scientific collaborator of Nicole L'Huillier. He's called Adam Horowitz. He's a neuroscientist, and instead of being interested in sleep, he was more interested in dreams, which at the time was a little bit unusual. But now that sleep science really sees that people who dream wake up more rested, have a better start into the day, dreams have actually become a topic in sleep science. It's also beneficial for our mental and physical health. And so there's a lot of benefits that are explored there, and that makes this topic in sleep science. So objectively, we are in that field of science, but then subjectively, and this is where the art comes in, we can actually, what we hear, we can test that on our own bodies and rehearse it. And that is sort of like the subjective and the artistic part of the project.
Adam gave us so many practical tips on how to build up like sound cues within the piece. One of my favorites is what he says about how we feel the caress of like the human touch, even when we are caressing a baby, for example, you know, like this movement. And he was like, it's 3 centimeters. And I was like, Adam, how am I supposed to translate 3 centimeters into like what is a sound caress, right? And then through the conversation, we made it like a cycle. So we understand like, you know, the caress of the 3 centimeters to become a cycle, as in like it has to be 3 times in the movement of 10 seconds. So approximately 3 centimeters can be translated roughly into seconds. And that's what you hear sometimes in the piece as well, like these sound caresses that last exactly 3 cycles within 10 seconds.
So there's something beautiful about sounds in relation to dreams, but also in relation to sleep. What's interesting is that when we are sleeping, we are still listening. So it's again, in this way that we can understand ourselves as sort of like attunement systems, attunement machines or entities that resonate. Your ears are not closed, you know, attention shifts, it changes, but it's still open, it's still happening, you're still listening to the world. And in many ways, these sounds come to the dream world. So there's a connection. These sounds defy this logic of separation that we think we have, that in a way decided that we separate waking life from dreaming life, and these are totally different realities. Some people don't even understand dream life as a reality. But it's in a continuum, right? And like sound is a way, it's kind of like insisting and teaching us that there's a continuum. There's a flux between what's here and what's there.
In the middle of this installation, we have the spiral-shaped drum, and it's an instrument with which you can interact. So you can touch the membrane, you can sing to the membrane, you can talk to the membrane as well, and you can participate in this choir of whisperers because this is a dream installation. So you can share your own dreams. You can also listen to dreams. You can put your ear very close to the sculptures and then listen to dream narratives.
Because I heard the voice of my friend, and I woke up with her sound in my mind. The dream.
So the Whisper Choir was done in collaboration with Manaswi Mishra. He's a dear friend and collaborator since many years. He's a musician, an artist, and an AI researcher. And what we did for this choir was to actually go to an open source DreamShare dataset that is online, that everybody can access actually, and gather different dreams in relation to sound, dreams in relation to resonances, dreams in relation to silence as well. And what we did with all these texts, these dream reports, we wanted to sonify them. So we use a text-to-speech machine learning model in order to translate into different voices, but to do so in a particular way and like to also sit ourselves into these voices and into this choir. We trained this model with our own voices, our own whispers. There's voices from Manaswi, from Adam Har-Horowitz, another collaborator, my daughter, my partner, my mother. So we have different sort of voices, and they are the seeds for this to emerge, for these voices to be narrating these continuous, circulating, spiraling dreams of sound.
Lying in a hospital bed, with all the family around the bedside, and all the equipment is there.
Like a village hall.
There is no sound. No one is talking to me.
You won't hear the dreams in a sort of like narrated way that you usually communicate to people with, but you hear like whispering sounds. So it's more difficult to listen to the actual dreams. It's a state of like dissolution in a way. It's not really language. It's something like a murmuring sound that recounts that dream.
One of the main conditions for collective dreaming is actually starting with dream sharing as a practice. So this is a space to start seeding this idea of practicing that. That space would be the place to practice, to rehearse rest, to rehearse collective rest. Then finally we have a collection of different dream and sleep experts that are giving their testimonies and sharing their knowledge from different perspectives. So there's scientists, there's poets, there's artists, and they connect with dreams and sleep in very different ways. So it's also to open up the conversation of how do we dream, what questions do dreams and sleep also bring to us beyond the proposal of the rehearsal room, but opening up also other portals and other windows beyond my personal proposal, let's say.